Sawadee Krap and welcome to another Thailand Tuesday episode here for the Funky Pod. It's Tuesday, I'm in Thailand, and you know what it means. And I mentioned several times in the past Thailand Tuesday episodes of this Funky Pod, I try hard not to always talk about Covid-19 because we're all fed up with it. But it always comes and sneaks around. It's like, hey, don't forget to talk about me. And same thing this week. This week actually even more so because something remarkable happened. Several remarkable things happened in regards to COVID-19 and Thailand. First, highest case of infections on a day ever, more than 6,000. Yeah, Thailand number one. Woo. Then all the ICU beds are taken, I believe. Also, change in how things have been handled now. Until now, if you tested positive, even if you're asymptomatic, you had to go to a hospital. Now they think about changing that. If you're asymptomatic, you just need to stay home and quarantine yourself, self-quarantine, because I assume there are not enough beds anymore, and that's why they think about changing this. As far as I'm concerned, take it with a grain of salt, do your own research, but that's what I read and what I heard. Okay, then on the other hand, the Phuket Sandbox just opened. So Phuket Sandbox is this buzzword created here in Thailand for Phuket, the island of Phuket, the biggest island in Thailand, now opening for international tourists. Meaning, if you are a foreigner, if you live abroad, you are fully vaccinated and you can prove it with vaccination certificates, then you could be eligible to come here for holidays. So what you would need to do is you would need to go to a website, upload your documents, your vaccine certification. This will be vetted by the Thai government, I'm assuming. If you're approved, you can then come to Phuket and you don't have to quarantine in Phuket because you're fully vaccinated. So you can stay on Phuket, only on that one island. And if you stay there you can roam freely there. If you stay there for 14 days and you still want to continue your holidays in Thailand, then you are free to travel to any other province in Thailand as well. So 14 days on Phuket, basically island quarantine. But you don't need to quarantine in a hotel room. You can roam freely according to rules and regulations. I assume there might be some places where you can go also, but according to rules and regulations. And then after 14 days, and if you test negative, then you can go anywhere in Thailand, just like someone who lives in Thailand. So that's the rule for now. That's the Phuket Sandbox. And now this week it kicked off, July 1st, and now we have, around 400 or 500 tourists on Phuket. Yes, I thought the first ones also from Germany arriving. I think the overall the first ones were from Israel, if I'm not mistaken. So from all around the world now, tourists coming to Phuket. If this goes well, then Thailand is considering extending this whole sandbox thing to other provinces, other islands first probably, and then maybe even further. This is kind of interesting for several reasons. A, of course, tourism is the number one factor in Thailand, economical factor, especially on tourist islands such as Phuket. I think tourism used to be make up for 90% of the income or something on Phuket. So it's important that it comes back, of course, for everybody. Everyone on Phuket kind of is probably involved in the tourism sector or benefits from tourists being there. Okay, on the other hand, right now we have the highest number of cases ever recorded since COVID started. Crazy. So highest cases opening up Phuket. But then again, on Phuket, we don't have that many cases yet. The most cases are in Bangkok. Yay, that's where I am. And in surrounding areas, I believe, and in a few more areas further down south, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, still though, right? So, for example, in Bangkok, restaurants now are closed. It's open for takeaway, but you cannot sit in a restaurant. But in Phuket, foreigners can travel and have fun. This now doesn't sit that well with lots of locals. I think that's kind of understandable, but also if you then follow the logic by the ones in charge of the sandbox and so on, they say yeah, we understand it, but look at our side. So the foreigners, they're fully vaccinated and they follow all the rules and regulations. So they don't carry the virus and they don't spread the virus. So that's why they can come in here. Yeah, interesting. They also said if I think the infections go up in Phuket, like more than 70 or so cases per day, I believe is the guideline, 75 around that, then they're gonna halt the sandbox thing. This could also be something, for example, let's imagine you're a tourist, you come to Phuket, you're like, I know you're in there for like 5, 6, 7 days and you say, okay, 10 more days or so and then I'm gonna travel the rest of Thailand. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, wait, there are too many cases now in Phuket. We're going to stop this thing. You cannot travel anywhere anymore. So the tourists coming in right now, also taking risks, of course, right? So I hope it all goes well. Also, what lots of social media commenters said when they showed pictures from those people coming from Frankfurt, from the flight from Frankfurt, they don't look like tourists, which was interesting. They came in like dress shirt and so on, like atypical for if you would travel to Thailand, especially taking into consideration in Europe right now, it's also summer. So you're not, if you're on holidays, you're not necessarily walking around in a dress shirt, I believe. So lots of people are arriving in dress shirt and suitcase. And so they look more like they'd be on a business trip. But who am I to judge them, right? Or who are those social media commenters to judge them? So let's not, I don't go down any conspiracy theory here, but that's just what lots of social media commenters said. Also, because of course the government saw the criticism of Thai people in regards to the Phuket Sandbox, the Prime Minister came out, and I'm not making fun of it, I'm just kind of like saying what he said, not verbatim, but kind of like in the sense he said like, it's called Phuket Sandbox because it's like a castle, and we built like a sand castle, I assume. Like we built this castle out of sand, and to make the castle strong, we need strong foundations with like bricks and concrete or something along those lines. Lots of Thai netizens then made fun of him for this, for being like, that's a stupid metaphor and how you're just trying to sound fancy without it actually making sense. No comment to this, just bringing this to you so that you can see what's happening here right now. So while Thailand is the land of smiles, of course, and people are still happy, and when the tourists arrive from Phuket, they were welcomed with like clapping, like lots of people working the airport and so on, saying they're clapping. And I'm sure that most people on Phuket itself probably are going to be happy about those tourists because, as I mentioned before, important for the economy. But the rest of Thailand might not see this in such a positive light, given that restaurants had to shut down here right now. Gyms are still closed, for example. Like Muay Thai is still closed in many cases, except if you're a professional, then you might get a chance to train. But yeah, so it's still, I don't know, your personal life is still very much affected by it, while then tourists are allowed to roam around, have fun, basically. And lots of Thais still waiting for the vaccine, even for the first vaccine, right? For the first shot. Now, Sinopharm has been accepted by the Thai healthcare, whatever governmental body. So now Sinopharm is in the country and will be administered soon, I believe. I think Johnson & Johnson is also accredited. I'm not sure about Pfizer yet, but why wouldn't it be? But I haven't heard anything of Pfizer, and apparently Moderna is apparently going to come in October or so. I think you can already sign up with like private hospitals, make appointments, but I think it's later down the road. All right, the main vaccine being administered is still AstraZeneca here, I believe, and I'm still waiting for my second shot, which should happen, I think, sometime mid-August. I believe it's like 12 weeks or so after the first one, so should be sometime mid-August. Okay. I'm thinking if I should talk more about the vaccine and so on, or the Phuket Sandbox, but I think I covered most parts of the Phuket Sandbox. If you would ask me about my personal opinion, I'm not sure, to be honest, because I just went to a quick getaway from Bangkok. So I just went to the neighboring city, to Pattaya, or actually not even to Pattaya, but parts of Pattaya, to the beach, just to chill at the beach for like a few hours and then go back home. And without interacting with anyone, by the way, to stay safe and social distance from anyone. And the thing is, it's sad. So Pattaya is not a nice city usually for holidays, right? But right now, because of COVID, no tourists. It's overflown by tourists usually. It's ridiculous. It's crowded AF. It's no fun. everything is dead right now. Like, and it's Pattaya is famous for being like one of the sex capitals, the sex city, and so on. So you see lots of prostitutes there and so on. And now I would say compared to normal before pre-COVID, now maybe there's like a third of the prostitutes working there. That I've been there before, but they're still standing there, like at the promenade next to the beach. Once the sun set, then you can see them standing there. And of course, there's like basically no customers right now, because the main customers usually would be drunk foreigners, tourists, I guess. But right now, it's already people living there, so target audience not that big. So it's kind of sad to see the desperation, but not only with the sex workers, but everybody else. Like lots of restaurants are closed. The only restaurants that are open right now, I think, are the franchises and so on. They might have more funding there, right? So more money to survive situations like this. Like lots of local restaurants are closed down. We spent like 2 hours or so, or 2.5 hours at the beach, just sitting there. I'm away from everything, but those hawkers are coming, right? They're selling everything there. And I think every like 2 or 3 minutes, like a different hawker came, like, hey, want this, hey, want this, hey, want. They're also very desperate, of course. Then they announced over speakers that they're gonna close the beach again. COVID regulations, I assume, from tomorrow, I believe, or from yesterday. Depends when you're watching or listening to this. So from Monday, I believe they closed the beach again, which then also affects those people having food stands there, the hawkers and so on, right? So it's tough. And while I'm all for safety, I'm also seeing the impact it has on the people. And that is very sad. And there's not much, the government doesn't help them that much. They give away some money, yes, but it's not that much, and I'm not sure how much more they could do. Yeah, they could do much more. Of course, we don't. Let's not go down that road. But reasonably, like if we actually realistically, not reasonably, they could do more maybe, but realistically, they might not be able to get more done right now. And I leave it with this. But so that's why I'm saying, maybe it makes sense to kind of find a way to somewhat open up again and get things started. The easiest or the best thing would be, of course, to increase the vaccination rate, right? Right now still, I think they're vaccinating around like 300,000 people per day or something like this, or 400,000. They said it's going to take until the end of the year until they have herd immunity, or kind of herd immunity, whatever you call it, when most people are vaccinated. So it's still like 6 months down the road, almost 5 months. It's a long road. If it still stays closed for 5 months, that's a long road. However, the Prime Minister also mentioned, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, that he wants to open up the country again by October, which is now July, August, September, October. It's still 4 months to go. But better than December, obviously. Well, yeah, so the economic impact can definitely be seen right now, and it's pretty sad. Like I said, Pattaya, the sex capital. Don't get me Thailand. That's how it's made up, or like made famous for across the world. I'm not saying this. Entertainment capital. Let's say entertainment capital. It's basically dead. It's crazy. So yeah, I hope everybody who suffers from this really finds a way or back to their feet, and hope they get their chance to earn a living again rather soon. So I do understand people who say, okay, it's enough now with the shutdown. Didn't really help anyways. Let's open things up again. I hope vaccination just gets underway like faster. One thing before I move on with that we also saw when we went to Pattaya, there was like a stand that gave out free food, or like, not sure if it was a governmental thing or just like some NGO or something. And people queued. And they queued for what looked like kilometers, miles down the road, like in triple rows. And they queued for free food. So you can see how hard it hit lots of people that usually work there at the beach and make a living selling stuff to tourists. So that's really harsh. That's really, really tough to see. Cat hair here. It's really harsh to see. And I hope that somehow they find a way to make this work. And if there is like more sandboxes, so-called sandboxes, then so be it. So fingers crossed that the Phuket Sandbox thing goes well. No matter what you think about the current government and whatever, like leave this aside, but let's hope it goes well for all the people involved, and then we might be able to see more of those sandboxes just so that people who need it can make a living here. Okay. It's now tough from this sad story, COVID story and travel story to move on to something more happy. So I'm simply gonna keep the next part for the next episode. So I don't want to be like, hey man, right now COVID sucks everything, but hey, happiness. I think that wouldn't be like the most reasonable, best transition here. But before I go, we also did a trip like the other day, like a few weeks ago, to another city, to Hua Hin, which is also like 90 minutes, 2 hours away from Bangkok. Maybe almost 3 hours, I guess. Depends on traffic. But yeah, same thing there. So it's also super dead, like crazy. And I know half a year ago or so, we went to Phuket before the Sandbox happened. When only local travel was allowed. Same thing. It's the biggest island in the country. So it's like the number one tourist spot. Dead, like crazy dead. So that's why I'm sympathizing with the people now trying to make money and people welcoming the Sandbox thing. Okay. That's it from me for this week's Thailand Tuesday. Let me know what you think about this Sandbox thing. What's your idea? You think it's a good idea? Are you in a country that's still under lockdown or like no international travel, or would you want to come here in the Sandbox and you say, okay, 2 weeks in like this one place? It's a big island though. And then I can travel anywhere. Would you do it? So what are your thoughts on the Phuket Sandbox, on traveling, on having like dedicated spots for travelers and slowly opening up again? Or are you in a country that's already opened up and you're like, hey, what takes you so long? So let me know your thoughts on the Phuket Sandbox, on Thailand, traveling per se. And I hope we can have an interesting discussion here. All right, until then, shout out in social media at FunkitPod, email funkitpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow, because I really want to talk to all of you. So let me know what you think. Until then, don't forget, take care, stay safe, and I hope to see and talk to you rather soon. Sawadee Krap.